I'm Colonel Manoj Kumar Singh, Director Research at the FGS. We have been conducting many events on contemporary topics, inviting the best voices from the world over from time to time. Today, we have a very distinguished panel of 4 authors and editors who have written a very interesting book on BRICS. That is, Locating BRICS in the Global Order, Perspectives from the Global South. We shall be reviewing this very book and will be very fortunate to hear from the horse's mouth. Needless to emphasize here that all of them are established names and leading experts in international relations and geopolitics. One of them is joining us from Russia. I'll start with just basic brief about the book. The publisher is Routledge, and it has got distinctive ISBN number. The book is an illustrated edition, which has about 358 pages. There are 4 editors and contributors: Professor Rajan Kumar, Professor Meeta Keswani Mehra, Professor G. Venkatraman, Professor Meenakshi Sundaryal, and of course, Professor Oksana Kharitonova. We'll be soon be very privileged to listen to all of you. I will now talk about the speakers in brief. Professor Rajan Kumar is a distinguished strategic thinker, is an associate professor at School of International Studies at the JNU, New Delhi. He's also the patron of Forum for Global Studies, our organization in New Delhi. Dr. Kumar has had the privilege of teaching in some of the foreign universities as well, including Moscow State University and University of Kentucky, USA. Dr. Kumar has authored many books and many articles, one of the important ones titled Re-Emerging Russia, Structure, Institutions and Processes. That was published by Palgrave Macmillan, London. He writes regularly for India's leading newspapers, including in Indian Express, on issues related to India's foreign policy and other international issues. Dr. Rajan also appears as an expert panelist on leading TV channels such as BBC, DD News, and many other channels of India. Now coming to Dr. Oksana Kharitonova, she joined the School of Political Science at MGIMO University as a PhD student in 1991 and completed her PhD in 1995 and has been teaching at the Department of Comparative Politics and holds the post of associate professor there. She is proficient in English and German, apart from the Russian language. She acquired her PhD in political science, and her thesis was titled Political Transformation of the USSR, Democratization of the Political System During Perestroika. She has research interests in comparative politics and government, political regimes and political regime changes, democratization, political institutions, and she is also considered an expert on BRICS. So much so for her, there is a lot which can be talked about her, but I'll restrict myself here. Now we come to Dr. Meenakshi Sundaryal. She is an assistant professor at Center of Spanish, Portuguese, Italian, and Latin American Studies, School of Language, Literature, and Culture Studies at Jawaharlal Nehru University, New Delhi. Coming to Professor Meeta Keswani Mehra, she is Professor of Economics at Center for International Trade and Development, School of International Studies at Jawaharlal Nehru University. Now, just talking few lines about the BRICS and in the context of this very important book that we are going to talk about. Let me start by quoting Indian Prime Minister Modi. While embarking on his visit to South Africa, he was quoted in August 23, the BRICS grouping has truly emerged as an important platform for discussing the challenges facing the global South. He also added that the BRICS has been pursuing a strong cooperation agenda across various sectors, and we value the BRICS has become a platform for discussing and deliberating on issues of concern for the entire global South, including development imperatives and reforms of the multilateral system. BRICS is conceivably the most formidable organization to have emerged in the post-Cold War era in the non-Western world. Your book highlights the significance of BRICS in a wider global context and foregrounds the long pending demands for the reform of global governance institutions. And rightly, the Western world feels that countries of global South are increasingly asserting their own values and points of view, especially through the BRICS organization. Here I'll invite my friend, Professor Kirill Sablin, to continue the deliberations. Kirill.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Manoj Singh, thank you. Here we have from 8 to 10 minutes for each speaker that to represent the book, because this is very important for us. And this book, locating BRICS in the global order perspectives from the global South, is a very, very actual and up-to-date theme. Yes.
Okay.
Please, welcome. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Colonel Manoj Singh ji. It's been a privilege, speaking with you in various channels, but also here. And my respected colleagues, Oksana Khatinova from Magimo, very distinguished scholar. Meeta Keswani Mehra, very well-known scholar on trade and climate change, environment, etc. Meenakshi, she is the real expert on culture, and contribution here in the book is about culture. So it's an honor. Cassio from Brazil, Sao Paulo. So thank you very much, all of you, for giving me this opportunity. Kirill, of course, from Saint Petersburg. And all my dear colleagues, it's an honor and privilege that I'm talking about the book in front of all of you. And we have a very distinguished set of scholars who have contributed to this book. We'll talk about it. But for the time being, let me tell you how this thing started. This started with an ICCR project. ICR is Indian Council of Social Science Relations, etc. So it was a project which was granted to us. It was a major project by ICSSR, which started in 2015 and it was concluded in 2018. So during that time, that project funded us to travel to a number of countries, including Brazil and South Africa. These are the countries which we normally, generally, people, not many people from India travel, but all of us, including Meeta Mehra, Professor Meeta Mehra and Professor Meenakshi Sundaryal, and the Venkat, who is other colleague who couldn't come today, Professor Ajay Patnaik, we all traveled to different countries, including Russia also, to collect the data. And we gathered a very distinguished set of scholars in the process. And we thought that why not convert this idea that we accumulated into a book. Project allowed us to meet people who otherwise would have been impossible. So we decided to work on 3 major themes in the book. First was on what is BRICS, how do you locate the BRICS in the global order. The second was about the various interest of various countries. For instance, what is the interest of India, Brazil, Russia, China? And the interesting thing about the book is that the interest of the country has been written, the chapter on the interest of a country in the BRICS has been written by the native scholar. For instance, I have written the chapter on India, a scholar from China, Zhu Lingyu, he has written a chapter on Chinese interest in the BRICS. Oksana Khatinova, who is here, she'll be speaking about Russian interest also. So she also contributed a chapter. Bruno Di Conti from University of Campinas in Brazil, he has written the chapter on Brazil. In South Africa, we have a mixed scholar who is an expert on Africa, so Professor Malakar. So that's how it's a true project of the Global South, true collaboration of the countries and the scholars of the Global South. Oksana is the only odd person out here. She is from the north, but again, Russia considers itself to be part of the Global South in many ways. So she's also a scholar of the Global South. So that's how it started. And our visit confirmed 2-3 things: that there is a tremendous appetite for an organization where the interest of the Global South can be represented. When we met the scholars in Brazil and South Africa, so they were very curious, and most of them were supporting the idea of BRICS and the organization called BRICS. Even in Brazil, when Bolsonaro, who is a very pro-liberal kind of neoliberal kind of person, who was a president and a very neoliberal kind of person, he also was very keen to participate and actively support BRICS, despite some of the apprehensions of other scholars. The same kind of feeling that we got in South Africa also. Russia, as you know, Russia and China are the key movers of the BRICS, so their support is already there. So it was confirmed in a way that these countries, they want to carry forward the ideas of the BRICS, idea of the global south, which has been now being re-articulated in various forums, not only BRICS, but also in the G20, the meeting that we had in India. And we also found that there are some issues within BRICS where there are some issues of conflicting issues, but again, somehow they have institutionalized they're trying to institutionalize the organization by creating the new development bank and contingency reserve fund, etc. And so there is a very keen interest in promoting the idea of BRICS. And BRICS became very popular, very interesting that in the last meeting that you saw that roughly 40 countries, they showed some kind of interest in joining BRICS. And as you know, 6 countries from different continents, they have already they are joining BRICS, and now the name has to change, or it might be called BRICS Plus, I don't know. But that interest shows that how BRICS is expanding, how the BRICS has attracted the attention of the countries from the global south. And in this book, which was written before this summit, and this actually, it came last year and the final copy came this year. So we predicted that BRICS is going to expand. And in the introduction chapter, you can actually see preface and introduction that we said that BRICS might expand in terms of issue areas, but also in terms of geographical territories, etc. We finished this book during the COVID period. So there are chapters on COVID also. In this book, what you can expect, Manoj sir, you can expect to understand what is BRICS. There's a lot of confusion about BRICS because some of the people think that if you write about few issues from all the countries, so that becomes BRICS. No, we have written this book from IR perspective, where we are focusing on the organization of BRICS and how this organization came into being, what is the historical origin of BRICS, and how BRICS is carrying forward certain ideas which are antithetical and which kind of challenges some of the hegemonic West. So these are the ideas that you can expect to know from this book. How does BRICS contribute to global governance? So that's another idea that we discussed in the first section of the chapter. What are the expectations of the member states? That you will find very prominently, as I said, written by the native scholars of each country. And what are the convergences of interest and what are the divergences of interest? So these are the things that we discussed in the books. Because BRICS is always criticized for one particular reason, that BRICS is not promoting any different kind of any norm or certain values. So we have tried to establish how BRICS is also promoting certain norms and values, which are of course different from the Western value. Multilateralism as a concept, as you know, this is dominated by the neoliberal or liberal ideas. So when they talk about the Western multilateralism, so many of the things, they do not consider non-Western organization as part of that multilateral organization. So we have tried to counter that argument of the West by saying that how BRICS is also trying to promote certain norms and values. So the first part of the book deals about the locating BRICS in the global order. Second part is about member states and their interest. Third part is about new areas of cooperation, where there are chapters on climate change, disaster, on COVID also, because this book came during the COVID. So how BRICS countries came together and contributed to this COVID issue. So that has also been discussed. This book tells you that how there is a tectonic shift taking place in the geopolitical order, how the countries of the global south are becoming very prominent, and how institutions of the liberal institutions of the West, dominated by the West, they are willing to co-opt some of the countries of the global south. But again, there are also certain constants why these institutions, UN, IMF, World Bank, etc., they're not reforming. And unless until they reform, these kind of organizations will keep propping up. So I have introduced the concept of contested multilateralism, that how global southern countries are contesting the idea of multilateralism. So that's what you can expect. And we argue very strongly that in India, for instance, one scholar said at one point of time, BRICS is an acronym without substance. So that was the center point, that we argued that how BRICS is important, and there are substantive issues which are being discussed and being promoted by BRICS. So we countered that kind of idea. And we also, it traces the origin of the BRICS because many a times we say that BRICS came with the brick of this Goldman Sachs Zimonil, but we argue that how BRICS, the idea of BRICS started much earlier. And we go to 1990s when Russia-India-China cooperation, RIC was formed, and later on the RIC started cooperating, and Primakov, the Russian Prime Minister, he visited India and he promoted the idea. So we take the idea back to the 1990s, and then we trace the origin of BRICS in this volume. And we very strongly, because all the scholars in this book, except one or two, one is from Australia and one is from the United States, other scholars are from the Global South. And the Global South became very popular, but we wrote this book much before the G20 summit. And our book also says that perspectives from the Global South. So the idea that how Global South thinks of this organization, so that we brought out much before the G20 meeting, where African Union, etc., and the Global South as a concept became very popular, especially promoted by the idea. And we also argue that how Global South is a deterritorial conceptualization of transnational politics, and it is not just about the geography. For instance, India geographically is not in the Global South. China is not geographically in the Global South. But the idea of the countries of the Global South linked to colonialism, the resistance against the West. So that is the idea which connects these countries together. So I think my time is up.
Yes, thank you. Yes.
So I'll stop by saying that BRICS expansion shows that how southern countries are interested in this organization, and the fact that none of the BRICS countries took any in the Russia-Ukraine war, they refused to either condemn Russia or take a side. So that also strengthened the position of the BRICS, and many of the countries, they think that BRICS is emerging, BRICS is the future organization. So that's why you see that BRICS has acquired a very important place in the Global South and in the global governance. So let me stop here because there are very prominent scholars waiting to speak. So I'll stop it here. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, dear sir, Jan Kumar. So the next word is for Dr. Oksana Kharitonova. You're welcome, please.
Okay, I will speak about the chapter on Russia. As Rajan has said, all the chapters written by these scholars who are not from India, they were looking at the perspectives of their compatriots, actually. And most of the people whom I cite, they are Russian scholars, Russian politicians, Russian researchers. Actually, I also cite some prominent ones like Samuel Huntington, but only when I quote his idea about the West against the rest. All other impressions, understandings are given by the Russian side. That is why I think it's important to see how Russia and Russian scholarship treats BRICS. And certainly, actually, the idea of the ideas of Russian scholarships actually also vary, and they evolve gradually during time. Because, for example, Russian policy also evolved in the beginning of the 90s after the disintegration of the socialist camp. Russia was willing to sacrifice, certainly not all, but some, to give up some of its national interests for the sake of cooperation with the civilized world, as it was put, and with Europe, with the United States. Though the idea by Primakov on the BRICSization process, actually it's not my term, but the term of one of the scholars analyzing BRICS, and this BRICSization process started even at that time during Evgeny Primakov's articulated idea about the RIC, Russia, India, China triangle. And the interaction within this triangle at that time was also seen as the process to diversify Russian foreign policy. When we gradually go in history, in time, we see that gradual withdrawal of Russia from the G8 group, the introduction of Western sanctions. Even at that time, we were writing the book in 2020, but at that time, the consequent confrontation with the West reduced Russia's international standing. And that is why Russia again lost faith in the United States and Europe as political and economic partners, and began this political and economic turn to the non-Western world. And BRICS for Russia is seen as a real geopolitical event. It's not only for Russia, I hope, but for other countries as well. And another paragraph in my chapter is devoted to various domestic discourses on BRICS, and I try to split different spheres first the economic perspective, then the international relations perspective, and political science perspective. And certainly economic perspective dominates. And here the scholarship has contradictory opinions about Russia and the BRICS, because economically wise, we see that Russia is lagging behind according to some economic indicators. Though if we, for example, look at education or human development index, then Russia's place is one of the best in BRICS. That is why the discussion of the Russia as the weak link in BRICS is considered to be economical, based on the skeptical position based on the economic view. If we look at the international relations perspective, then here we see among Russian scholarship the discussion of multipolarity, which dominates, though there are some different scholars who differently understand multipolarity and differently look at who can be a new pole. I was citing those of them who were speaking about the possibility of self-sufficient civilizations to be new poles in the international system, and the capacity of BRICS to become a new pole, of BRICS countries, BRICS as a group, to become a new pole in the multipolar world. And actually, BRICS in this context is considered to be the institutionalization of multipolarity and the example of multilateral diplomacy built on principles of networking. And actually, from this perspective, BRICS is viewed as a group strengthening its place in the world politics. And because of BRICS, world system will become multipolar and multi-civilizational. Then I look at the political science perspective and look at the BRICS and BRICS countries' place in the world during globalization. And here I also employ this paradigm of skeptics, transformationalists, and look at different perspectives. Skeptics who are very skeptical about BRICS, and transformationalists who believe that BRICS will really transform the world and transform the and make it multipolar. And I also show the pessimistic views, because some people claim that BRICS is mostly, or actually at that time when the book was written, when the chapter was written, that BRICS is mostly oriented at counteraction, and many ideas are reactive and aim to counteract to the West. And in order to become truly transformationalist, they need to become proactive. And actually, we see that this is happening. Another paragraph is devoted to Russia's interest in the BRICS, and here it's not content analysis, neither discourse analysis. It's just analysis of the Russian foreign policy concepts and Russian concepts inside the BRICS. I just want to see how the idea of the BRICS evolve and how the notions of the BRICS and UN become to, for example, the number of BRICS mentions in the concepts of the Russian foreign policy concepts of the Russian Federation outweigh, for example, the mentions of European countries. But it was gradual. Originally, it was not the case. And statistics is given only for support of the idea that multipolarity is viewed by Russia as a solution to unilateralism, and all of the concepts analyzed, all the foreign policy concepts analyzed, show that Russia aims to set up a polycentric world order based on the principles of multilateralism and active cooperation with international and regional organizations, and the maintaining the United Nations and the core international institution. Yes, I see that I need to finish soon. And I wanted to show that one of the most important discourses in Russia is the civilizational one, because BRICS is legitimized showing that it is not only based on states, but it's based on civilization, because each of the countries belong to different distinct civilizations which do not clash but cooperate. And intercivilizational is additional legitimacy to BRICS. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Oksana Kharitonova. And the next word is going for Meenakshi Sendrial. Please. You're welcome.
Yeah, thank you very much. Am I audible? Hello.
Yes, you are.
Yes.
Yes, yes.
So let me just begin with, showing my gratitude to the Forum for Global Studies for organizing this book discussion and giving us this opportunity. And it's a big pleasure to finally meet, Professor Oksana, who we had the privilege of editing during the course of this book, and to meet all these scholars from Russia, from Brazil, and of course from India. So thank you very much. Since Professor Rajan has already placed before you the comprehensive idea of the book, let me focus now on the chapter that I did, which is on culture. So while trying to collect material on this book, and when the idea was beginning to form in my head as to how we can see, look at the idea of BRICS and weave in culture and weave in a sense of, what might be the possible methods through which we can actually have this particular focus and a particular lens. Because for that, the cultural paradigm, although we all know and acknowledge that economy is the engine which we actually look at each other and make sense of it. So for that, one wanted to embark upon a possible, to begin on this project, one had to think of a working definition of culture. So culture could be, seen from two angles. One was the idea of a very fossilized kind of idea of culture, which looks at culture as some kind of an artifact which is immutable, which cannot, and this is what we replicate in the form of traditional artifacts, whether they are actual artifacts in the sense of physical entities, or traditions, rituals, which we carry out in our daily lives. Now, the other idea of culture was the one to which I myself subscribe, which is that the idea of culture is a very dynamic one. It has something to do with the people's lived lives themselves, and which has the capacity to change. And it is essentially, in that sense, a social practice, seriously prone to change. It is dynamic and holds a very dialectical kind of a relationship with the economy in which it is being nurtured. And therefore, also that within a space, within a territorial space, there are lots of these, social practice that we can call culture. So perhaps the idea of different cultures in the plural may be a better way to understand it. And so with this idea, I tried to begin locating BRICS, that how can we look at BRICS culturally and weave the narrative of culture through it. So essentially, then we had to look at BRICS as from the point of view of international relations, as Rajan has also said, but that is only a surface area, because if we are to locate BRICS in the global south, as we have done, global south here, of course, we means the southernity, and the idea of southernity is not actually of being a place on the map of the world as it is, the physical map, but it is a cultural map. It is a map which doesn't adhere to where one is placed actually on the map, but where one is placed in the sense of one's heft in the international scene, so to say. So the idea of BRICS and the BRICS countries, we see they are firmly located in the global south, as we can see. If we are to use the terminology, the decolonial discourse, which uses the spatial metaphors as something that can be utilized for understanding the world order, so to say. So the world order is understood by the decolonial narratives is that we can look at it through the lens of a global north and a global south. And we see the BRICS idea being firmly located in the global south. However, there is a problem with the decolonial discourse itself, because when we look at the countries of the global south, there emerges the fact and the idea that the global south itself is not a homogeneous whole. So the discourses or the idea and the metaphors that are used in the decolonial discourse of a center and the periphery, when we look at the broader perspective of IR, we also see that the same idea could be used within each of these territorial entities called the BRICS countries, wherein we can see that the countries themselves harbor a sense. So on the whole, we can say are come in very handy to describe the general politics of the world and locate the BRICS formation and its continuance as in face of all odds as something which is challenging the dominant order. And the dominant order continues to be coming from the West, the so-called West. I would like to put it within commas, because again, the notions of East, West, North, South, these are all like cultural notions which have more to do with the heft that you have in the international the world order rather than your place in the world map. So therefore, to understand the question of BRICS culture, or how we can, through culture, look at the idea of BRICS, it is essential that we understand that the spatial metaphors that the decolonial discourse used is not enough to understand the total reality of the world, whether it is BRICS or otherwise. So we have a larger reality where we find the BRICS countries challenging the world order on the one hand. On the other hand, we find the same BRICS countries as a canvas within which we can find centers and peripheries, which have their own power structure. And where do we find that cultural product there, the cultural artifact? So the cultural artifacts are located within all these spheres that we call at the local level, within each of the BRICS countries, within the paradigm of power structures, the power and their contestation, which is symbolized in the particular cultural artifact that might come out of it, and at the level of the larger level of international relations, where BRICS idea itself is giving is symbolizing the notion of the periphery, and which is coming into its own now and also getting extended. So this is how one sees culturally, theoretically, how we can look at the BRICS idea. Now, the other thing is how we are seeing it in practical terms. So after the BRICS, cultural understanding that that the BRICS nation reached in 2015, when the cultural accord was signed, it delineated a great deal of things which are to be, which will increase collaboration between the BRICS nations, which will foster a people-to-people understanding and indeed an understanding of cultures between them. So we see this idea of collaboration in fields of cinema, in fields of in the formation of the BRICS University, in holding of the BRICS. Later on things were added to it, and most recently in the field of sport, in the field of museums, etc. And the lack and the lacunae that which one saw earlier in terms that the official terminology and narrative of the BRICS countries did not perhaps pay full attention to the notion of this thriving aspect of people's involvement, because culture is not just a cultural artifact or a dance or a particular piece of art, but it is in constant dialogue with the lived lives of people. So if that is to be so, then
I'm sorry. I'm sorry, because you know that we have to listen to the next speaker.
I'm just folding this up. So if that is to be seen, I think now it is getting more and more concretized, and very one symbolic concretization of this fact that it has amalgamated, the two have amalgamated, is the recent making of the documentary on museums that the BRICS countries have come up with. They have collaborated, which is called History Illuminates the Future, My Museum Story. So on the one hand, you have the artifacts of the museum, but it is being seen from the lens of a range of people who come from various classes. So it beautifully combines the both of them. So I think I see this film as a metaphor for what BRICS can do culturally in the future. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you for your seminal insight. And the next word is for Dr. Mita Keswari Mehra. Please, you are welcome, ma'am.
Yeah, thank you, Kirill. And thank you for having me here. I wanted to, place on record my gratitude to Forum for Global Studies, Colonel Singh. I'm very happy to meet Oksana and Cassio. It's always such a pleasure to sort of, connect in these forums. So at the very outset, what my talk will focus on is what I'm trained to do, which is the economics. And Oksana rightly pointed out that one of the things that sort of forges links across BRICS economies is the fact that these are emerging and developing economies and having a lot of commonality and mutual interest in cooperation in economic domains. So my talk will have the focus on BRICS economies. I and my co-author, Azharuddin, we have contributed 3 chapters to the books, essentially focusing on this cross-cutting issue across all BRICS countries. So we'll talk about the economies, their place in the global economic scenario, trade and investment linkages, and in fact, there are specific chapters dedicated to international trade, potential, and also to investment flows and what could be the determining factors. And we economists like to sort of do the analyses and then see how, policies can be tailored to maximize the realization of that potential. Additionally, I will touch upon the role of new institutional mechanisms that have been put in place by the BRICS group and the likely implications for governance and monetary systems being perceived by the group, especially in light of the expanded membership, which is being called as BRICS Plus. So a whole group of countries, which could sort of mutually benefit from these trade and investment interactions is actually sort of coming to fore. So if, I were to talk about the economic sort of forces that brought attention to BRICS, it was clearly that, 2 or 2.5 decades ago, due to the significant economic growth in the individual economies, amid slower growth or even recession in rest of the world, that BRICS actually drew attention. And much of this growth story has been sustained even in the post-COVID era. Several countries of the group are clearly engines of world economic growth. BRICS has, in fact, if I were to put it very succinctly, ubiquitous economic entity, which has been identified by investors, financiers, and policymakers alike as emerging and developing market economies. International Monetary Fund projects that BRICS could very well contribute half of the world output, starting with about a quarter currently over the next 10 or 15 years. This would be more pronounced for BRICS Plus group because these BRICS Plus countries could actually add to the heft of the global South and enhance the scope for plurilateralism. BRICS are economically influential in several very diverse kind of aspects. China is world's biggest industrial and manufacturing hub and a very important R&D center. India is ahead of other BRICS nations in some very high-tech sectors like IT, information technology, ITES, information technology-enabled services, oil refining, pharmaceutical. Brazil and South Africa have abundant natural and ecological resources, so important from the viewpoint of environment and sustainability and the challenges of climate change. And Russia is a very large hydrocarbons exporter. India's economic growth is expected to remain a little over 6%. It's amongst the fastest growing economies over the last 4 or 5 years. And in spite of the relative slowdown in China's economic growth, it still hovers around 3.3 to 3.5%. It has the wherewithal to make a policy turnaround, in times to come. The demographic profile is an important sort of driver of growth. So BRICS could actually support the demographic composition of the countries could actually support the realization of the economic growth futures of the group. Brazil, India, and South Africa have a large section of young population that could potentially join the workforce. And utilizing the potential for human capital lies at the center stage. For a robust recovery for BRICS in the post-COVID era. Of course, there are challenges about, the need for education, reskilling, training, especially in light of, a very fast digitalizing world. But so very different form of labor force is needed, and it requires reskilling. So notwithstanding these challenges, human capital really lies at the core of it, and these countries can sort of rely on it in a big way. As for trade linkages, we did a fair amount of data analysis by commodity groups, and we found that reveal comparative advantage and trade intensity indices actually point to fairly high trade complementarity and intensity in the BRICS group. And this is attributable to differences in the economic structure, the composition of output, and differences in resource endowments of the countries of the group. Trade mix consists of a range of primary products like agricultural commodities, minerals, fuels, manufactured goods, including mechanical and electrical goods. And goods trade has risen across, bilateral and multilateral trade between countries of the group in the last 2 or 3 years, despite geopolitical tensions and the logistical challenges posed by the pandemic. Now, these trends are likely to deepen further as the group tries to become a more cohesive global entity and tries to sort of lower trade barriers, especially vis-a-vis each other. The impressive performance of BRICS in attracting foreign direct investment at portfolio investment has been a key driving factor for economic growth and internationalization of financial flows. And this is likely to go from strength to strength with BRICS Plus, the expansion. And global value chains, fragmentation of production across countries of the globe is sort of giving BRICS that unique opportunity to utilize, competitive advantage of individual countries in labor of a particular type or resources of another type. Currency reserves of the country stand at 4 trillion with fairly manageable government debt situations. So monetarily as well, in a global kind of setting, countries are comfortable. So what the BRICS was trying to do was also sort of try and strive for an alternative global financial order. So let me just say a word or two there. In a Western-dominated global financial system, BRICS undertook or took upon itself the responsibility to set up the new development bank to finance infrastructure and sustainable development within the group, as well as with other emerging and developing countries. So a part of the equity capital of the BRICS group is also contributed, small part though, by Bangladesh, by the UAE by Egypt. The formation of the new development bank provides BRICS a new influential and prominent position in the global monetary system. In fact, the country's NDB provided a fair amount of support to cope with the challenges of COVID-19 pandemic. And this has indeed set the tone for enhanced cooperation amongst them for future development initiatives, especially in very important social and development-oriented areas like public health, climate change mitigation, urban resilience, water resources management, clean energy. Until now, NDB has financed close to 95 projects amounting to $32 billion US dollars. In fact, contentious issues surround, need for cooperation amongst countries like climate change mitigation, burden sharing, adaptation, climate finance, technology transfer. And these are being regularly negotiated at other multilateral forums like G20, IMF, the UN bodies, and NDB and BRICS Plus could very well go for, help in addressing some of these challenges. So we have a specific chapter devoted to trade, determinants of trade amongst countries. And there we go into some rigorous econometric analysis. We do panel import gravity model for bilateral trade flows between BRICS and 10 of its most important trading partners. And we've, considered data for 20-30 years. It is found that market-oriented growth of trade is important. Per capita GDPs of both the reporter country and the partner trading country have an important positive effect on import flows. The formation of the BRICS itself, led to this sudden structural break where trade picked up. Presence of a common language is found to have a positive impact. The effect of global financial crisis surprisingly didn't have an impact. The same kind of impact or severe impact on trade flows amongst countries of BRICS. Partner countries accumulate more capital over time. As that happens, trade gets enhanced. So investment flows and commodity trade are complementary to each other. Trade freedom index or trade facilitation processes.
I'm deeply sorry, but you should stop there. Okay. Thank you.
So I will just can I take just one more minute to talk about investment flows? There is a similar kind of pattern that has emerged there. Kirill, I'll just take 30 seconds more. Yeah, there have been some discussions on de-dollarization and some emphasis on transactions or need for local or digital currencies. Now this seemed to have sort of lacked consensus. So a full-fledged BRICS currency is a far-fetched goal. Maybe we can talk more about it during the discussions. And the expanded BRICS has provided an opportunity for economic growth and globalization, and this could help tap into each other's markets and attract more FDI. Although consensus building would be a challenge. That's where I want to stop. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Doc. It's okay. It's okay.
Yeah.
Have time. So I want to believe that now we have time for the questions and answers session. And according to the discussion of the book, after the seminal insights of our speakers. And so my first question for Professor Rajan Kumar, according to this theme, BRICS and the global order, and how do you see the BRICS in the emerging global order? This is my first question. You are muted. Please unmute. Okay.
Yeah, thank you, Kirill. Yeah, I think that's very important because if you see the Western literature, especially I checked out The Economist, the last 10 issues on BRICS, and the titles were all like the BRICS is in disarray, BRICS cannot be a uniform organization, China is too dominant in the BRICS. So that kind of negative heading. Although there are few writers from the West also who have started conceding the importance of BRICS, but BRICS has begun to play a very important role in the global governance as far as the trade, as far as the GDP is concerned. Say about the economic governance. Even in nominal terms, the BRICS GDP is roughly 27% of the 27% of the global GDP, and the G7 GDP is in nominal terms is 40%. 41%. But if you talk in terms of PPP, then it's already, the BRICS has already overtaken the G7 economy. And if you add BRICS plus now, so even in nominal terms, BRICS economy probably would be bigger than the G7 economy. So what we are talking of is the economic governance. And as you know that in today's context, not a single conflict, be it the security conflict in Palestine or any other place in the world, or it is climate change or food security or energy security, these issues cannot be resolved without taking into consideration the global southern countries, especially the BRICS countries. And now the fact that, the FDI, for instance, a large amount in the 1990s, the FDI will come from the Western countries to the southern countries, BRICS country. But now BRICS is equally contributing to FDI in northern countries, the Western countries, but also within the global south. And there is a huge amount of trade now which has increased in the last few years among the BRICS countries. So all of these are indicators that how BRICS has acquired a very important place for itself in the global governance. Only problem that I see that even today, the global institutions, United Nations, the IMF, World Bank, WTO, etc. So they are not, giving that importance to the countries of the global south, especially the rising countries of the global south. So that's a challenge that BRICS is constantly putting it forward. So BRICS has certainly acquired a great place in the global order. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. And the next question is from Professor Casio. Casio, you're welcome.
Professors for all dimensions, doctors for all dimensions. My question, continuing the Q&A session, would be to Dr. Oksana Kharitonova. Doctor, how do you see the BRICS in the emerging global orders from the Russian perspective?
Well, thank you very much for your question. I hope you hear me.
Come a little closer, Oksana, come a little closer because the voice. Yeah, louder, a little louder, please.
Sorry. I did not have time to go back from the university. That's why I'm still from here. That's why maybe the connection is not that good. Actually, we see, I think that everybody in Russia is very optimistic about BRICS in the future global order, and even more optimistic than it was before when we wrote this book. And when we stress and when we show the differences between BRICS and other institutions, certainly BRICS does not want to replace the universal mechanisms like United Nations, etc. But BRICS wants to change the world order to make it more just and multipolar. And something what is good about BRICS, we were speaking about its economic advantages, about its intercivilizational club, maybe we can say, because it started as a club. But one thing is very important, because it's the only organization in the world which does not have actually a leader, because all BRICS members are equal, and this equality is also something new for the international relations and for the global order. And I think that it is very important. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you, ma'am. And the next question for Professor Ajahn Kumar. Mr. Manoj Singh, please. You're welcome.
Yeah, interestingly, one of the Western papers which I stumbled upon analyzed as to how BRICS is posing direct challenge to G7. As you mentioned, sir, in your answer to the previous question, that G7 feels a little, not happy about BRICS growing this way. But I'll restrict myself to the question of what's India's motive in the BRICS in the future?
I think, there are very few, very clear messages or the reason why BRICS, when India joined the BRICS, BRICS gave India some kind of a status because, it brought India in parity with Russia, China, etc. So that was the initial motive. But now, now its motive has also changed. And that was the time when India, because, India is always looking for some kind of strategic autonomy in the foreign policy, and it talks about the multi-alignment. So BRICS, kind of reaffirms that India's commitment to strategic autonomy, because if India was just the member of Quad, say for instance, or just the partnership with the United States, so it would be difficult for India to maintain a balanced policy with Russia, with China, and other parts of the global south. So strategic autonomy is the second point. Third, because these countries, BRICS countries, are the rising economies of the global south, the future economies of the global south. So India has to maintain a very balanced relationship with these countries. And also because, the concept of global south now, it has acquired an important dimension. So these are the reasons why, the one is this status seeking. The second is called hedging in global politics, where you hedge against different powers, you balance each other power. So these are the reasons why India, in fact, became, and India is very active. India is taking BRICS very seriously. Prime Minister also visited when there was a news that he may not visit South Africa summit of BRICS. See, actually, South African president, it seems, called the prime minister and said that you have to come, and he visited there. Although the Chinese president didn't come there, but India visited. So that shows India is committed to BRICS. And I've talked to a lot of people here, experts and also policymakers. So they say that India will remain committed to BRICS very strongly. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you. And the next question for Ma'am Meenakshi Sundaral from Pritika Tiwari, please. You are welcome.
Can I ask the question, sir?
Yeah, you're welcome.
So greetings to everyone. My name is Pritika Tiwari. I'm from GLA University, Mathura. My question is to Dr. Meenakshi. Ma'am, I want to ask, how do you see the BRICS in promoting the idea of global south?
Yeah, so I would say that in very clear terms that it sort of embodies the idea of global south as such. The BRICS idea actually embodies the idea of global south in the context of IR. I'm not saying that the BRICS by itself will sort of find solutions to all the problems of the people who are inhabiting these territories, but on the level of international relations, the BRICS idea is an embodiment of the global south in the sense that it does place a challenge. It places a challenge to the dominant global order, which is symbolized in the Bretton Woods institutions, for example. It is only it's the only reason why the West has always seen BRICS as some kind of a threat, although its outside motives or its written motives were never a dismantling of this order, just symbolized in the IMF, the World Bank, etc. It is never there. But the very existence of BRICS is enough for the discourses in the West, in the hegemonic discourses of the West, who are writing its obituaries right from day one. But what we see essentially is that it continues with whatever limitations it has, and it has also managed to expand now.
Yeah, thank you for your answer. Yes, and next question from Vaishnavi Singh Mehra. Please, you are welcome. Or Dr. Mita Keswari Mehra.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. This is Vaishnavi Singh. I am from GLA University. My question is, how has BRICS promoted trade and investment among BRICS countries?
Okay, so, the thing is, the discussions within the BRICS themselves are a basis for sort of, making the trade facilitation environment, the acceptability of currencies vis-a-vis each other, especially in the face of, the sanctions on Russia, all of these developments where they could, in a relatively cooperative manner, could come up with possibility of enhancing trade in spite of the challenges is one way that BRICS has been able to sort of, go forward with expansion of trade. See, the way trade is happening across countries of the globe is through differences in technology, differences in resources, and it's essentially market-driven. whichever country is more competitive would tend to sort of specialize in the production of those goods. There seem to be, from the data that we analyzed, a fair amount of trade complementarity, across countries of BRICS. And this seemed to have only strengthened in the recent past. Because what we find is when we look at trade ties just before the formation of the BRICS group, the formal formation, and post it, there is increased enhancement. Yeah, so through exchange or transfer of technology, through identification of scope for, even this global value chains or value addition at different stages based on labor being available in one country, through discussions on these, through cooperation on clean energy and common sort of goal of reducing the impact of climate change. In all of these respects, trade across countries or even investment flows get, enhanced. With regard to investment, just coordination of monetary policies of the countries, because the finance ministers of these countries meet. And there is a regular discussion and discourse. So these parallel, kind of discussions go on besides the annual summit. All of these go towards reducing barriers to trade and investment flows because you harmonize policies better.
Thank you so much. Thank you. And the next question for Dr. Oksana Kharitonova from Mr. Ankit Kumar. Sir, you're welcome.
Good evening, everyone. Myself, Ankit Raj. I'm third-year law student from Law College, Dehradun, Chancellor University. I would like to thank Dr. Sandeep Tripathi, sir, for giving me this golden opportunity. So my question is for Dr. Oksana. What is the Russia's motive in the BRICS?
Russia's motive, Russia's interest.
Russia's motive in the BRICS.
Okay, Russia's motives. I think that there are many different motives. First one was the diversification of Russia's foreign policy, especially after it disappointed with the West and with Europe and with the United States. Then another one was another motive is to not only diversify but also to have a place on the world arena. I would say that with this legacy, imperial legacies, Cold War legacy, I think that it also influences Russia's perceptions, especially when it when it was driven to the periphery of the world order, and it was like a replacement. The third one, certainly, it was the motive to be one of the leaders of this new world order, and actually BRICS has all the chances to become one of these leaders, one of these new poles, and I think that it can also be the motive. And also this cooperation and this complementarity, especially in the economic field, is also very important for Russia, especially at the time of sanctions and economic isolation from the West. But certainly that's my only perspectives, and it's not what I've read. It's just my understanding after I analyzed different documents and different articles and research articles on this. That's how I see it. It's not the official position, neither of my own university or the Russian Federation, certainly.
Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you.
Спасибо большое. And the next question is from Dr. Sandeep Tripathi for Professor Rajan Kumar. Dear friend, you are welcome.
Thank you so much, Dr. Sablin, for giving this opportunity. First of all, I would like to thank for all speakers, distinguished speakers, and especially thanks to my students from Mathura GL University, from Uttaranchal, Dehradun, from University of Allahabad, and especially from Delhi, Sharda University, where I'm teaching right now. So thanks a lot for making this meaningful event. The last question to Professor Rajan Kumar. How do you see the BRICS expansion that took place recently?
I think, very interesting question. And, this is important. Why? because BRICS didn't have any country which was Islamic. And Islamic countries, let me tell you, it's very, there's 51 countries in the United Nations which are Islamic, but there was not a single representation from that Islamic world, number one. Number two, with the inclusion of Iran and Saudi Arabia, BRICS has all the important energy suppliers in the world. So energy has become now the kind of, the monopoly or oligopoly, whatever you call it, of the BRICS country now. So that has added a new dimension. Also remember that it included some of the contradictory states, India and China already there, but also you have Iran and Saudi Arabia, which play different kind of politics in the region, Middle East. And also there is second representation from Africa, so that was very important. Argentina, an important power in the Latin America, so that's important. So it adds to the strength of Global South, it adds to the strength of BRICS, but coordination is going to be a challenge that BRICS needs to take care of. And allow me to leave because I have to attend one other seminar. So Dr. Sablin, can I leave now because I have to attend some other function?
Yes, you're welcome, sir. Thank you for your participation, and thank you for your deep and seminal insight for the BRICS perspective of the global order. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you, Manoj sir. Thank you, Sablin. Thank you, Sandeep, and thank you, Casio. All of you, and I have to leave, so thank you, everybody. Meenakshi, Meeta, everybody. Students, thank you for coming. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rajan sir. Thank you, sir.
Others will stay, please, for the vote of thanks.
Yes, please, Dr.
I request
Casio.
you to just remain 10 minutes.
Okay. Can you all hear me? Thanks. I'm getting better. Partnership with BRICS from Brazil as well. Professor Rajan Kumar made very important points. He traveled when organizing this book, when thinking about this book. And I would say that the strength of the BRICS countries is not just in the economy, but it's in the people-to-people exchange. And what we are doing this morning here in Brazil, it's people-to-people exchange. We are exchanging culture, we are exchanging academics, we are exchanging knowledge. Dr. Oksana Kharitonova pointed very well a good point in multipolarity. Who can be the new poles? Should we have a new pole? This is a very interesting question. How can we settle the BRICS countries in this new global? Sundrial, very interesting point on the idea of sovereignty, a cultural map instead of a geographical one. Here in Brazil, I am much west, really west, where I am standing right now. But at the same time, we don't feel like we are a Western country simply as that. We are a Western country, but we are friends with the East. And Dr. Meeta Keshwani Mehra, the economic importance. We are the powerful economies. We have, if we consider the expansion as we almost have the energy monopoly of the world now. We have about 40–50% of the world's economic sources of oil. We do have, as we pointed, academic institutions. India had the first big universities in the past. So when we think, who are we as BRICS? We know who we don't want to be. We don't want to be subservient countries. We don't want to be colonized countries. We want to show the world how much we do have our own cultures. We do know each other. And as it was very well pointed today, the idea, the key idea, as Dr. Oksana said, we are side by side as BRICS countries. We don't see a leader. There is no up country saying, okay, you are going to do this, you are going to do that. When Brazil looks at one side, sees Russia side by side. Look, To the other side, there is India, there is China, there is South Africa, side by side. We about 2 weeks ago, I was interviewed by an India TV, and they asked me, how does Brazil see India? And I said, brothers, brotherly countries. We are brotherly countries. When we needed vaccine, when we needed medical supplies, we talked with our BRICS friends and we helped each other with technology. Brazil had developed technology, sent to India. India had the industries, the pharmaceutical industries, together with some Brazilian research. We developed a vaccine that was used to protect India, Brazil, Russia, China.
Cassio, sorry, friends, but I need to note that, sorry for interrupting. Oksana Kharitonova needs to go because she's busy now. Thank you, Oksana Kharitonova. Thank you for your participation.
Yes, thank you very
Thank you so
I'm
much.
very sorry. Thank you very much for invitation. I just need to go.
Thank you. Okay, bye.
Thank you very much, Professor Oksana. So it was a very pleasurable morning, very productive morning. And I would like to thank the participation of everyone here. And I give the floor back to my dear friend Kirill, I think, who is moderating this meeting. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. I think we should stop now, yeah?
Thank you very much. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you very much,
bye-bye.
everybody.
Yeah,
It was a
yeah.
pleasure.